These are huge events that you guys are coordinating.
It's one of those things where I like to do that stuff. So I don't think of the mountain that I have to climb. I just think of, I just got to get to this next milestone.
Hello and welcome to Hamdom Thoughts, a podcast about ham radio, electronics, software, and tinkering. I'm your host, Dennis, FCC licensed amateur extra radio operator, call sign AD6DM. In today's episode, we meet with AA0Z Kyle. Kyle has a comprehensive YouTube channel where he not only talks about ham radio, but also how-tos, gear, POTA, and field operations. Kyle is very active in his local ham community, even as a leader in his ham club. Let's talk with Kyle today. Stay tuned. Hey Kyle, got you on Zoom. Thanks for taking the time. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, Dennis, for inviting me on the podcast. I'm a big fan, and it's an honor. Thank you very much.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I'm honored that for you to say you're a fan. You've been out there. I try to catch all of your streams, and I know that a lot of the time I'm in the middle of some kind of meeting. I'm like, I'm missing the live stream right now, but I love them. We'll talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, but I especially like your trivia. When you do your trivia episodes, those are really cool.
Yeah, that came out of, I forgot who gave me the idea, but it was one of the YouTubers, and someone said, hey, we should do like a trivia night. And I love to play trivia. I don't miss a trivia event. If someone asked me to play trivia, like, at a church or a fundraiser, I'm all over it. So I took that idea and ran with it. And I think Steve Goodgame, Ham Radio, gave me the idea, or maybe it was Smoke and Ape gave me the idea of doing a Kahoot. Mm-hmm. So I looked into the Kahoot and, did the first trivia night, and it was a success. And I'm like, well, I got to keep doing this. This is awesome. But the back end of displaying the questions and getting everyone into the YouTube or into the from the Zoom into the YouTube, it's like mission control. Yeah. And every time I set the trivia up, I'm always like to the point where I wonder what's going to break today. And this is going to be an utter disaster, right?
It never seems to be, though. Has there been any disaster?
There hasn't. Where's my knock on wood? There has not been any disasters. But it's Dennis, on the back end, it is put together with bale and twine and duct tape and paper clips, and so.
Well, isn't that like the secret to theater? It's like behind the scenes, everything is just glue and Band-Aids and duct tape, and yeah.
I think
it doesn't appear that way from the viewer's point of view. It looks all, wow. I mean, I've seen where sometimes there's some delays and stuff like that, and you're like, seem to be figuring something out, but it seems very smooth and very well rehearsed.
Well, thank you. I think half the people tune in just to see how bad I'm going to butcher the questions.
Oh, no.
Because I have a little dyslexia going on, and I have this tendency of reading the question first and knowing where I'm going to mess up. And then, of course, I'm messing up at that point. And I think that's how the whole fun of it, especially on the back end with the guys in the Zoom, they're just like, you butchered that question. I'm like, well, thanks.
Yeah, that reminds me of my interview with Sterling and Zero SSC. He kept on calling it the IRAU.
Uh,
He's member of the IRAU. I'm like, is that right? No,
that's funny.
just let it slide. Speaking of Sterling, I heard from him that you were the president of your ham club, and then you just updated me before we started this recording that you're the ex-president now, and that you coordinate a lot of activities for your area, which is, I guess, the St. Louis area?
Right. Yeah, I was president of St. Louis and Suburban Radio Club for 2 years, but I am active I'm the engineering committee chair. I am part of the Winterfest committee. I am the website committee chair, and then I dabble into the equipment people chair also. So I'm very active in the club, especially on the engineering side, being the committee chair for the engineering committee, where we have 7 repeaters stuff to do. We're building out an Arden network.
Wow.
We've got a very active club. I mean, our club is anywhere between, people come and go, right? They fall in and out of the hobby. We have anywhere between 250 to 275 members.
Wow. Yeah, so, it sounds like you guys are really busy, and we just looked at one of your videos here where you're actually about to go work on a repeater. I'll play that in a bit, but your club even has several repeaters in the area. That's pretty cool.
We do. We've got 5 2-meter repeaters, 4 2-meter repeaters, 2 70 centimeter repeaters, and a 1.5 centimeter repeater that is a little bit on hospice right now. We got to replace that repeater in this year, but it's a lot of work. We have a point-to-point network that we shoot internet to all of our repeater sites with Ubiquity dishes across St. Louis. Our longest shot is about 7.5 miles, and we are in the works of putting out Arden networks or Arden deployments in St. Louis. So that's in 2021. We're going to build out the Arden network, and we're learning more and more stuff every single day. So,
yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of a vacuum. So it's just me and my 2-node Arden mesh. But I am tunneling with Dawn, KK4QAM. So we're sharing our services that way. But yeah, I wish I could be in the middle of that kind of activity. That would be so cool.
It's tough with the lockdown. We couldn't get to a lot of our repeater cabinets because either we weren't allowed in the building, or my engineering committee is about 20 people. So we love to get to, before COVID, we would get together every month on the second Saturday, and we would hit a repeater cabinet and just, overhaul it, do a bunch of stuff, replace coax, whatever was on the to-do list. Well, some of those repeaters we haven't hit in over a year because, our club has an older population, and, obviously no one wants to get together because of COVID. So we haven't gotten together as a group or been to a lot of repeater sites in over a year.
Well, that's a testament to the build of the repeater, at least.
Yeah.
Still up.
Yeah. It's a lot of repeater systems, once you put them in, they just kind of run. You do have problem children on repeater systems, but for the most part, if you built it right, it's just going to run. And that's what you need, right? You need reliable repeaters.
Yeah. I put a note in here for Winterfest. I forgot to make a remark about that, but I want to ask you about your plans for that later. But first, before we get into all that, why don't you tell us more about yourself, your background, what you do, what interests you, and how you got into ham radio?
Yeah. So I'm of the younger generation of hams. I work in IT for my day job, and I just gravitated towards ham radio from my youth. And I'll tell you a little story on how I got started. Back in high school in the late 80s and early 90s, there was no internet, right? There was no social networks. There was no way to get a hold of each other. There were no cell phones to get a hold of each other on the weekends. And I had a group of friends that we used to go out cruising all the time. We used to go down to this place called the River, and do goofy stuff as kids. And that's how, or we used going back, we used CBs to basically coordinate the weekend events, right? So we'd go up on the top of the highest hill, which was Kroger parking lot in a small town in Missouri, and all of us had a Cobra or a Midland CB. And if I could go back to young Kyle and think about all the dumb things I did with my antenna and my CB, knowing what I know now about antennas, I'd smack my face and my head, and be like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. And we bought an old SWR meter from Radio Shack, and the goal was to get that SWR down as small as possible. And we had no idea what SWR was. We just knew that it had to be, that needle just needed to move like just a little bit for us to be able to get out and talk to one another, right? And in the early 90s, I think it was solar cycle 22. We had no idea, about propagation, but I mean, we would talk all the way across town. We'd talk, many miles down the road, and it was great. So fast forward to college, I went to Mizzou and got involved with the solar car team. And if you don't know anything about the solar car teams in universities, they build these multi-million-dollar solar cars. They get funding from corporations, and then you race them across America. And the races are called Sun Race. So I was on the team, and we were trying to figure out some telemetry stuff on how we were going to get the telemetry back from the solar car to the chase car, and how we were going to communicate to all the chase cars. And one of the professors said, well, we could probably use ham radio to do all that stuff. And my ears perked up, and I'm like, what is this ham radio? What is this stuff? Yeah. So I was a sophomore in college. So on my own, I just went out and got my ham radio license, and that was, I believe, in the beginning of 95. So it was, or maybe it was the late 94. It was the no code tech.
Yeah.
And got my license on a whim, and we ended up not using ham radio to do telemetry. We bought a system that did telemetry. I don't know what we used because I kind of fell out of the solar car deployment. But here I was with my ham radio license, and so I bought a radio. And on the weekends, if I came home or during the summer, I would get on the repeater back at my hometown.
Do you remember what radio that was?
It was a Kenwood V7A, I believe. And then I also bought a handheld, and I think that was a Kenwood TH28A.
Okay.
So those were my first two radios. Then I came home for a summer and got more interested. And then I went back to college later in the fall, and I joined the Amateur Radio Association there at the college and got involved with that. And then I graduated college, moved to St. Louis, got a job, and kind of lost interest. Picked it back up, I guess it was in the late 2000s, maybe. And on a whim, I decided to go to Dayton. Went to Dayton, saw a bunch of people from St. Louis. They got me involved in the club. I guess this was maybe 2008, 2009, and have been involved ever since. But it was that hiatus kind of probably was good because whenever I got back in, I upgraded to general, and I found HF and saw how cool. I was a little bit older, right, and could afford the radios and appreciated the hobby a lot more than whenever I was younger. Because sometimes, I'd talk on the radio and be like, these conversations are not realistic. I don't identify with some of these conversations, or what's the point? And, there was a lot of yeah, okay, I have this my license. It's good for maybe a disaster, but what's next, right? I didn't have a good Elmer. And whenever I joined the club and was a little bit older, I could ask the questions that I needed to ask and got a lot more information and saw that there was a lot more stuff in amateur radio than just talking on a repeater.
Yeah. Cool. And so what activities do you personally like doing most in ham radio?
So getting out. So I live in the city here in St. Louis, and my lot is like 30 feet by 110 feet.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have room to put, and my house takes up most of that lot.
Mhm.
So I don't have a lot of real estate to put an antenna. So I operate quite a bit portable, and I love contesting. I love QSO parties. I love NAQP. One of the things that I love to do is to build an expedition team and go out for Missouri QSO on a 2-county line, camp for 4 or 5 days, put up 4 or 5 stations, like this massive field day setup, and run expedition style with generators and camping gear and big radios and big antennas out in the field for Missouri QSO. I love that kind of stuff. And then that shrinks down to POTA and SOTA and just, getting out and taking my KX3 and throwing a wire in the tree and seeing how far I can get on 10 to 15 watts.
Yeah. Yeah. Shows how much I know, but are there a lot of peaks out there for SOTA?
There's some in southern Missouri. There's like probably, I want to say 10 to 15, but they're all like 3 hours away.
Yeah. So quite a trek just to get out there.
Yeah. It would take 3 hours to go down, a couple of hours, 3 hours to activate the summit, and 3 hours back. So that's a full day.
Yeah, that's a day. Wow. And I remember I had it on like, I missed the live stream itself, but your NAQP this year, I had it on, and I think it's like 4.5 hours long or something like that. But I just had it on in the background while I was doing stuff, and would every once in a while sit in front of the computer and watch a segment of it and go back to what I was doing. And that was good. I like the intro where you're just like spinning the dial, and then it's like shooting fish in a barrel, you would say, and just getting these stations. And it immediately made me wonder what your station looked like. And I know that you have a flex and that you had this very elaborate dashboard. That video introduced me to Node-RED, which is a very cool way to program workflows. So I'm looking into that right now, but I liked all of the things I was seeing there, and I was like, well, I wonder what antenna he has, because he's getting everything he's trying for, or almost everything he's trying for.
It is a 75, 76 foot end fed that is up in the trees, probably 60 or 70 foot.
Yeah, good height.
Yeah. So that is my remote station, because I don't have a place to put an antenna here. So that is actually up on my parents' property. Mm-hmm. And just recently, Ward Silver, N0AX, he has a contest station down in southern Missouri. And Ward and I are going to take my remote station and put it down at his contest station. So here in about a month, I'm going to have access to 3 towers.
Oh, wow.
So I'm ecstatic on that. And
if only.
He just got 500 meg fiber to this rural, yes. This rural place in southern Missouri. It's about 3.5 hours away from me. So I have to pull the contest station back from my parents' house, re-IP everything, make sure that it's rock solid, because my parents live an hour away. Well, the new remote station is going to be 3.5 hours away. It's not like, well, I'll just take a Saturday and run up there real quick and make sure everything's okay. So I'm ecstatic about my new remote station. And
are you going to drive that with full legal limit?
No, not at this point. And Ward doesn't even have full legal limit. I think he's got a couple of 2 Ameritron 800 watt amplifiers.
Okay. So plenty of power already, but just not the full 1.5 kilowatts.
I'm just ecstatic that I'm going to have access to some antennas with some gain and some directionality.
Yeah, totally. Man, so jealous.
So it's
intense.
it's been a long, we've been planning this for a while. He's been getting the updates on the internet, and it finally came to fruition like in the last month, where the service provider said, "Hey, we're ready to install your internet," and so things lined up good. And I'm going to do my last contest at my old station with an AQP ready. I'm a member of Society of Midwest Contesters, and we have a ongoing contest with Potomac River Association Contesting Club, PVRC, and it's a competition between clubs, and the points are through NAQP, and we battle for this thing called the Champions Cup, and all of the members submit their scores, and out of all of the NAQPs, whoever has the most points at the end of the calendar year wins the President's Club, or a Champions Club, Champions Cup, President's Cup, one of those two. So I wanted to do one last contest at my old station on NAQP before taking it down there, because I didn't want anything to for me to take the station down there and for me to hit the wrong button and be like, oh crap, I can't get into it.
Yeah.
Then I'm radioless.
Use what works right now and then do the transfer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that Node Red stuff, you should, everyone who wants to remote a station or even have a dashboard of what your station is doing, you don't have to have a flex to control your station. Look at some stuff on ham radio and Node Red, and you'll find some stuff on the internet. It is really cool stuff.
Yeah. I'm just to the stage where I'm getting LEDs to blink. So yeah. I'm just at the very beginning, but I'm just thinking of the potential of all these different things that you could do with it.
It is very cool. There's guys who have, I have written a couple of flows, but the flows that you see on my NAQP stream have all been imported from a Groups.io. If you go on Groups.io and search for Node Red ham radio, all of that information and all of the flows are there for a lot of things: amplifiers, antenna tuners, rotators. You just import them in, and it's open source, and tweak it to your needs, and boom, you've got a dashboard of things in your shack.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I didn't even know there was a group for it, but yeah. I'll look for it. You have a pretty cool YouTube channel that goes by your call sign and name, Kyle AA0Z. I always say AA0Z, but
yep, I do too.
So you produce a lot of stuff. I was looking over your videos uploaded. It scrolls and scrolls there. And you're also part of the YouTubers bunch.
Yep.
And of course, I mentioned one of my favorites of late has been catching the Ham Radio Trivia Live episodes. And it's just a lot of great banter, but also I get a lot of the stuff wrong. I'm like, oh, maybe I should restudy this stuff while I'm watching. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that one. And there's some arcane ones that you pick there too that I'm like, was that a question? I don't remember some of them.
Well, the cool thing about the ham radio trivia is people can sponsor a round. And if you want to sponsor a round, you just email me at my QRZ page, and you can put 10 questions together. Send me the 10 questions. We'll, plug your website, your YouTube channel, your whatever, your podcast. And one of the sponsors, it was for the ham radio channel Shacking Off, and it was Norman and Mike, I believe. Is their names. But anyway, Norman found test questions that are not test questions anymore from like the early 90s. Actually, I think they were even before the early 90s. And one of the test questions, it was great. It was, what do you not want to do whenever you're leaning over an amp an amplifier? And the answer was, you want to check your jewelry to make sure that it's not going to fall into the amplifier. And
Jewelry.
I'm like, oh, that's such a 70s question.
Totally. So why don't you tell us about how your channel got started? What's it about? And where it's headed.
So the channel got started. I think I was originally looking at the goat. I forgot his name.
Steve?
Steve, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve had a bunch of videos on YouTube, and I think that got me hooked. And I'm like, I could probably do this. I've got a GoPro. I've got some editing software. So if you take a look at my first videos, they're from Missouri QSO, and they're from field days that I've operated. And of course, they're horrible, right? But they were just, documenting my station setup, some contacts that I made. And they were in the style of Steve's videos, where he'd show, his station and him dragging his goats up the mountain. And I made a bunch of videos and then didn't do anything on YouTube for a while. And then whenever I started going to Dayton again, year after year, I started making videos again, and I met Sterling. Sterling lives in St. Louis, and him and I struck up a friendship, and he was also a member of the club, and he was a YouTuber, and we'd swap stories and little tidbits of information. And then I just started making videos regularly because ham radio became a main hobby. I mean, I've got, a ton of other hobbies, but it became a main hobby. And I just wanted to share my experiences a little bit more and get into more in-depth stuff and kind of get away from just the operating, but also show how fun and exciting ham radio can be. And it's not just people sitting in their basement talking on the radio,
Yep.
So I think that Sterling, again, got me involved with the YouTubers bunch and said, hey, I was on this podcast or this video thing with Jason from Ham Radio 2.0. Why don't I invite you to the next one and see how you like it? And it just kind of stuck.
Cool. I want to play a clip from one of your latest videos. I hinted to this earlier. Repeater cabinet tour. And what I like about your videos as well, I've said this a couple times now, I like your intro. So here, let me play that.
Hey all, Kyle, AA0Z here, and I'm on my way up to our club repeater cabinet, one of 5 that we have. We're having some desense issues or some power output issues on our Fusion repeater for the last week or so, and I got some time here to dedicate. Got some test equipment here, so I'm going to go up and take a look to see what's going on. Come with me, and I will give you a tour of one of the St. Louis and Suburban repeater cabinets. Stay tuned.
It's almost documentary style that you got going on in some of your videos there. But this one, you're driving out, you show us the whole trip, well, parts of the whole trip there, and then start working, show us a tour of the whole building and your repeater setup. It's pretty cool.
Thanks. I think what I'm going to do, some of the next videos that I'm going to do are a little non-conventional from, POTA, SOTA, antennas. I've got a full repeater setup here in my basement that I need to mock up, and we're going to go to another repeater site here in February. Just 3 of us from our club, since we can't get the full crew out there. So I got to mock that up, and we're going to replace the controller and replace the repeater. So I'm going to document that. And I think some of that stuff is really the other side of ham radio that you don't get to see. Yeah. There's plenty of videos out there of people working portable and SOTA and POTA and contests and reviews and this and that. What a lot of people don't get to see is like the inside of a repeater cabinet.
Yep.
Or how a repeater works and what a duplexer looks like, or what is a controller and how does this repeater actually communicate, and how can I get, what do you mean a repeater only has one antenna? How can it receive and transmit at the same time? That's weird, you know?
Yeah, I mean, those thoughts come to mind, and I would be very interested in those kind of videos if you made them.
Yeah, so,
because I was about to ask, how did you even get started in this? How did you even know where to go? What types of things to get to build a repeater?
Well, it came from having very good Elmers.
Yeah.
Right. George WB0IIS and Joe W0FY are my Elmers in the club for repeater systems, and I'm just the committee chair. Those two are the ones, the brains behind the repeaters. I mean, I know how to do some stuff, and I'm more of a coordinator. And hey, I think this is what the direction we should go in. And there's a lot of things where I'm the high level thinker to say, what if we do this? And then George comes back to you and says, Kyle, we can't do that. What are you thinking? I'm like, I'm just throwing it out there, you know? So I throw out weird stuff on putting stuff on the internet, like, you know, hooking Google Assistant up to the repeater, you know, and being able to talk into it and say, hey, Google, you know, what time is it? And then Google Assistant, you know, it's like, oh, it's 2:43 in the morning.
That's brilliant.
But then George,
like, nope.
You know, George reels me back and says, wait a minute, what happens whenever? And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah. Do you have anything for digital voice? Like, you do D-Star or Fusion or DMR or anything like that yet?
Just Fusion and Wires X. So we have Wires X, and we also have some hotspot capability, but no D-Star and no DMR. Actually, George WB0IS is the president of Missouri Digital Group, and they have repeaters in the St. Louis area, and they take care of. It's like an agreement. They take care of DMR and D-Star, and we take care of Fusion.
I see. Really cool. So what are some of the things that you're currently working on personally in ham radio, like projects or builds, kits, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the remote station is always in flux. I'd like to do a lot more stuff with that Node Red. I think that's really, really cool. Winter Field Day is coming up, so I'm going to try and work portable on Winter Field Day, but I just got a text from a friend, a ham radio friend. He's like, do you know that it's going to downpour all day on Saturday?
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, no. So I might be just streaming indoors here on the remote station.
Yeah.
But the Arden network for the club, we are communicating back and forth on email with different club members. We've got VPN set up between all of our Arden nodes. We're learning about Arden, how to advertise resources, how to administer, how to troubleshoot things. So that has kind of been things that I've been working on and probably will be working on in the next month or so, maybe even 3 or 4 months. But that's a great thing about ham radio, is there's always something new, right? And even if you don't have a passion for something right now, you might have a passion for it later. Like I would love to work satellites, but I just don't have a passion for it. I know that, I might pick up a couple of radios and go to Dayton and get an Arrow antenna, and before you know it, I'm working satellites because I'm to that point in my ham radio quote unquote career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of Winter Field Day, I am actually going to pick up some solar panels on the Saturday and it's kind of like maybe 2 hours drive from here. So I'm personally not going to be joining in the fun early on, but probably Sunday I'll try to get out there.
Yeah.
But my ham projects are interfering with my operation. So
that's almost like a good problem to have, right?
Yeah. These are some great panels that one of my friends picked up from Craigslist. 175 watt panels. I think he got them for like $8 each, and he got 36 of them. So he's trying to get rid of some of them, and I was like, I'll take some. So
right.
Going to try to get some of those and build out my off-grid even more over here.
Right. Very good. Good for you.
But I got to say that you have some of the best. Well, first of all, I noticed it in your YouTube channel. You have like one of the cleanest setups. If you want to talk about like the chat window in the background, and you have, the various things you're doing on the computer, but then there's you in the corner, kind of Udemy style, sitting there, so well lighted. Green screen is perfect. I mean, I'm just really impressed with the quality of your streaming setup.
Oh,
and
thank
you also have a lot of great, gear setups as well. And, that's all kind of leading to what is your favorite gear right now, and how do you pull this off? That's my side question. How do you I know someone asked in the chat once, they're like, how do you get such good quality video for your webcam? And you said, well, it's just some 1080p webcam that I have. And I'm like, how does he do that? It's got to be lighting. It's got to be something.
Is. So it is just a, this Zoom that we are on, I'm in like Studio B, which is like just where my work laptop is and everything. I have a whole dedicated setup downstairs that has a green screen that I pull across, and I got some help from Discord I built a streaming computer, and all that happens on one computer. So I have a Logitech C920 camera that points at me.
Okay.
And I flood the whole section of basement that I sit in with light. I mean, it is just a ton of light. And those C920 cameras they need a ton of light to make it look good. I've also spent many hours getting that green screen all lit uniformly. So it all blends in, and then backing down some of the brightness and the contrast on the camera. I stream all my stuff through OBS. I created a scene where I bring in the Zoom participants, and I stick them up in the upper left-hand corner, and then I put myself in the lower left-hand corner. I take the chat from the web page that you get on to stream through YouTube. I undock that from the window, and I stick that up in the OBS on the upper right. And then here's where the magic happens. I got to get the Kahoot screen. Not only do I have to send it to Zoom, but I have to send it out to the internet and get it into OBS somehow to stream out to YouTube, right? So I do that by logging into one account for the Zoom where I pull the participants over, and then I log into another account on my laptop, and I take that output and I run OBS on my laptop. I bring up the Kahoot on my laptop. I share my screen through OBS, and then there's this piece of software called NDI. Okay. And NDI basically digitizes the screen and sends it out over Ethernet. And I have a plug-in on my streaming computer that is, again, running OBS on all this as everything is coming in. Everything comes in through, or the laptop comes in through an NDI channel through OBS, and I pipe that back into YouTube. And like we were talking before, I have to get a better setup, because every time that I do this, it's like, what is going to break? What,
oh man.
it's super glue, some spit, some
I'm pretty sure you lost most of the listeners just going through that.
So so whenever you play trivia and you see this like gray hairs on my head that are forming 2 or 3 minutes after the stream starts, you know that I've had technical issues.
That's quite a hacky solution, but it works. Hey,
it works. I am going to refine it a lot more in the future, because I know what I need to do to make it a lot more smoother. It's just time and effort, and I need another computer dedicated down there to run the Kahoot.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me is I got to get more lighting in my room if I'm ever going to start streaming or, doing more of these Zoom calls. Because right now it's just ambient light, and, I'm doing that weird thing with the fade in and out.
Yeah.
Sometimes half of me is in the picture. And I just wonder, because when you said you're just using a Logitech webcam, I was like, what? How?
Yeah.
How is that possible? It's just it looks like it's some kind of professional camera. And
nope, it's just a Logitech camera. And don't go on, if you're looking to get into YouTube and stream and do some production, go to the Logitech website and grab a camera through them. If you go on Amazon or whatnot, you're going to pay $120 to get that webcam. You can find that webcam on Logitech's website for like $75, and they ship it free shipping, and I got it in 2 days.
Nice. Very cool. And so the other part of the question, what's your favorite gear? Just ham radio gear or general gear? So
my favorite, I am a Flex and a KX3. Those are my two staples. I love my KX3. I can throw that in my bag and get a K6 ARK antenna and a BioNO battery, and I can be on the air in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and that was my first HF radio.
Really?
And yeah.
The KX3 was your first HF? Wow. Yep. You started big.
And and I bought the 100-watt amp with it too, because I knew that I wanted to be modular. I know that, I preach to new hams, do not buy a QRP radio for your first HF radio. And I did that saying, I did not do that, right? I bought the KX3 as my first radio, but I bought the amp. So I used the amp quite a bit also. But then whenever I got my second HF radio, I knew that I wanted the Flex, because the Flex just does so many things,
Yep. I started delving into SDRs, and the first one was the RS918, a little QRP rig, and I was just blown away by the screen and all the information that you could get out of a radio. My previous radio, of course, being the 857D by Yaesu, which just has a very tiny, like 1-inch screen that basically tells you the frequency you're on,
right,
and perhaps the power meter. So it was like night and day operation, because I could scroll around, I could find things a lot easier. And so I was like, SDRs are the future. I am absolutely supporting any new SDR radio. And of course, when you research that kind of thing, you end up on the Flex site eventually. So I was like, I want one of those. I was like Wayne's World. Oh yes, it will be mine. So I was, I had been planning for a while to get one of those. I got the 6400. You have the 6600? 6700? Yes.
Yep.
So yes, very nice rigs, operate from anywhere. That's really awesome. But I've looked at a lot of different scopes, a lot of waterfalls. And to me, the Yaesu ones seem a little bit hyperactive. I don't know if I'm going to offend people here, but it just seems a little jittery to me, and it's not smooth. And then ICOM I like as well, but it seems a little like it's compressed. I don't know if that's just the nature of the screen. But the Flex spectrum, when you're looking at it, it just seems very smooth. Like there's some refinement to what you're looking at. So again, I'm probably pissing off people right now, but I just really like it. I like the way the Flex interface looks.
Right. It is a tool that you can use in contesting whenever you are running on a frequency and you are looking at the whole band. You can tell, especially on single sideband, you can tell where people are CQing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're doing SO2R or you're running on a frequency and you've got another pan adapter set up on, let's say, 80 meters or 20 meters, you can be scrolling through and instantly tell where people are CQing and where people are having a conversation just by the visual aspect of what you're seeing on the waterfall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really cool. My next question is, you've already answered quite a bit, but I don't know if you had any more comments. Do you have any Elmers or ham heroes?
The people local in my club, Joe, George, there's a lot of people that I religiously watch on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I consider them Elmers. I'm not going to name any names because there's so many that
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure somebody's going to be like, "Well, you watch all my videos. Why didn't you, say my name?" But all of the people that I watch on YouTube, I consider them my Elmers because I learned something from every single video.
Yeah, I think all my Elmers are YouTubers. Well, maybe not. Some are not active YouTubers, but I have a small group called JerryNet and learned a lot from them as well, just through Slack.
Yeah.
But I think everyone has been online, almost everybody, except for the very early people back in the 90s and early 2000s.
It's great that we have this thing called the internet and we're able to share information. And, Elmering is not only about, hey, you shouldn't do that, but it's about sharing information. And just, the little thing that you might be doing might be the golden nugget that someone needs to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And sharing that information and even if it's really small, it could have miles of staying power, with somebody else.
Yeah, definitely.
I had another story about Winterfest last year. So last year, Winterfest 2020, we wanted to basically make Winterfest kind of like a destination. We wanted to grow Winterfest, right? Hamfests are relatively boring, especially regional ones, right? You just got some flea market and you got maybe a vendor or a bigger vendor and you got smaller vendors. So as the club president, I was like, we need to do some cool stuff on Winterfest to get more people involved. So we decided that we were going to extend the hours. We were going to put together this thing called Education Alley, where we got Yoda, Robotics Club, some CW collectors. Brayley University came down and did some presentations. But that wasn't enough. We wanted to make it bigger. So we went down this road of putting a banquet together the night before Winterfest. And also, I wanted to do Contest University. Well, I contacted Tim Duffy, and Tim Duffy said, "No, you can't use Contest University. It's licensed, and you're not big enough. We only do it at Dayton. We don't even do it at Hamcation because it's just not big enough." So I created Contest College and put some curriculum together and got some people, some contesters to come down and do some forums, and that was awesome. But the banquet is what threw us for a loop. We put together the banquet, put together the speakers, got the banquet hall, and had everything lined up. We were like, okay, if we have 60 people, we're going to break even. 2 weeks before the banquet, we were turning people away, and we had 115 people sign up.
Oh, wow. So it was way over.
It was way over. So we thought we were in heaven, right? Oh, this is great, and ham things are like, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Well, if you go back in memory lane, December of 2019, the ARL board decided not to renew Howard Mickle's contract as the CEO. Guess who was our main presenter for Winterfest a month later?
Yeah.
So I literally saw that I got an email from the ARL and said, we decided not to renew the contract. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? He's our main speaker.
He's a keynote.
He's our keynote speaker. So Craig Thompson, K9CT, he was on the recent Pitcairn DXpedition. He was going to come down and he was going to be the opening act for the ARL. So we bumped him to the main act. We got Ward to do the future of ham radio. We got our division director, Rod Bloxham, at the time to do a presentation. And Ward was going to MC. Well, he was going to do a presentation, so now I had to MC the banquet. And it all worked out, but we got one comment. We got a couple of comments we sent out a survey, and we got a couple of comments about the banquet. And the one that stuck out in my mind was some person commented, "Yeah, the banquet was great, but you really need to have a real MC." And I was the MC because we had to bump everyone. So I took that to heart to say, well, maybe I'm not the best MC in the world.
Yeah, well,
whatever.
You're gonna focus on that one comment though, but I'm sure you did a great job.
Yeah, I focused on that one comment, and then also someone said that the food was horrible. I'm like, oh no, it's a banquet, the food is going to be horrible. I hope it's horrible, right?
Yeah, the scale of the things that you're working on. I don't know what's up with you, St. Louis folks over there. Is like you and Sterling is the scale of when I was having the interview with Sterling. It was like I was just thinking about the level of coordination that he is doing and being the representative of the Americas, it's like, and you describing this, I mean, these are huge events that you guys are coordinating.
It's one of those things where I like to do that stuff. So I don't think of the mountain that I have to climb. I just think of, I just got to get to this next milestone.
Yeah.
Right. And the great thing about the club is we do have a lot. I mean, we have 250 members, right? We have a lot of people that want to chip in. Sometimes they don't have the right skill set for what they want to sign up for, but we find something for them to do, and fit their skill set. But the great thing about the club is whenever you find that skill set for what you need to accomplish and they just run with it, it's great. Because then you can accomplish anything you want as a club if people chip in. And that's some of the pitfalls of clubs these days is you have STP syndrome. The same 10 people do everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow.
So getting involved in your club is essential. If you want to be involved and get something out of your club, go volunteer for something in your club and tell somebody your skill set or the things that you are passionate about and see if there's a fit for you to do that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of it's not a ham club, but I'm part of the CERT, Community Emergency Response Team here. And you got to be persistent too. Sometimes you say you have this skill set, like for me, it would be comms. And you got to say it a few times to a few different people before it actually sticks. And someone says, oh, hey, we need to get you to talk to this other person because they have a need with doing some task or some job. And I remember initially getting a little discouraged because I was like, well, hey, I have all this stuff that I want to help with, but nothing's happening. You guys aren't connecting me with anyone. I don't know what to do with it. So I just be there being the latest volunteer thing I did was the training for new members. And so I just walked around with fake injuries so that they could train with me. And I felt like there's so much more I could be doing here.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, man. You have to reach out not once, not twice, but you literally have to almost get in their face and send smoke signals and say, I have these skills and I think that I'm a valuable asset to the club. This is what I can help you with. Mm-hmm. Because there are so many things going on in the background with people trying to do new things or trying to coordinate that you almost have to just bulge yourself in or, push yourself into the club on, hey, give me this and let me do this for a minute and I will get you the results back. And then you gain trust with those people and say, oh yeah, let's give that to Dennis. Dennis is a good resource whenever, it comes to this.
Yeah.
So you're totally right. You almost have to say it multiple times for it to stick.
Yeah. So that's all I had. I was wondering if there's anything else you wanted to say or give advice about, plug before we close.
Nope. All I want to do is plug my club's Winterfest. If you go to winterfest.slsrc.org and take a look at our webpage, we just had, of course, we had to cancel our club's Winterfest this year, or we postponed it until 2022, but we took 7 forums, and streamed them live on YouTube. And it was much bigger than I expected. We had anywhere between 500 and 650 people streaming at one time. We had check-ins from every single continent except for the polls, and it went off with a hitch. I streamed it here live at my house. Didn't have any computer issues. All the presentations were awesome. The audio was great. The visuals were great. It went off without a hitch, and it was great. So I encourage you to, if you take a look at the presentation schedule, go to winterfest.slsrc.org and check out the club and check out the YouTube channel.
I'll put that in the show notes along with your YouTube channel, your Twitter. You have Instagram, Facebook page.
No Instagram. My Instagram is my personal Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Don't do a lot of Facebook. Yeah, Twitter and YouTube are my social media.
Pretty much like me.
Yeah.
Hopefully you will document your move to your new remote station. That sounds very interesting. I want to hear and see how that's going, and hopefully get a picture of some of those towers you're talking about.
I will. The remote is going in the second day of March. So that I'm going to take the video camera down there and going to document some stuff. I'll even take the drone down there and take some aerial shots of the property. And
I remember that video where you're like, surprise mystery thing, and then you unbox your cool new drone.
Yeah. So that's another hobby, right? That hopefully I need to find time for.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, thanks a lot. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Dennis.
You got a lot of great stuff out there, and I really do look forward to your different presentations and your different videos. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right. 7-3, man.
73.
You've been listening to Hamdom Thoughts. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you again next week.